Hello, Paul. How's it going? How was AACR?
Hi, Jacquelyn. Well, it was great. It was just great to see old friends and just chat to folks. And it's always great to go to AACR and ask.
Yeah, you always have fun at those meetings.
Well, as do you.
Yeah. Fine, fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, last week was crazy. I can't wait to dive into the stories. But after literally you were at ACR until Tuesday, and then we had like crazy workload already. And then on Friday, we had an unexpected twist of events that we can maybe allude to and tell the listeners in a bit. First, I will dive into the stories from last week, the headlines. We had a cover story of one of the AACR plenaries that also had a New York Times cover. Really, really exciting. It's finding out of MSK, Memorial Sloan Kettering, of neoadjuvant dostarlimab preventing surgery in 80% of patients with mismatch repair deficient solid cancers. So this is the drug that had 100% response rate in rectal cancer, DMMR rectal cancers. And this new sort of section of the trial expanded that to a pan-cancer analysis of DMMR cancers. And it had this 80% rate of averting surgeries that can lead to infertility, colostomy bags, really serious quality of life changes. So that was really, really exciting, really fun story to write. Really exciting to have that on the cover. And the second story, our story 2, was one of the original patients from the original rectal cancer trial. She was the patient number 4, so really one of the originals. Her name was Kelly Spill, and she opted for dostarlimab instead of going through the standard of care, which would have been chemotherapy, surgery, and radiation that would have left her infertile. And having a big family was a huge priority for her, and she decided to go ahead with this. Was one of the patients that had complete clinical response. 6 years later, she still is cancer-free, and she is pregnant with her 3rd child. So very heartwarming story, incredible, really lovely to speak with her. We also then had the White House skinny budget, which is what I was alluding to earlier, which that came in on Friday. I think, what time was it, Paul? Like 1 p.m., 12 p.m.?
Early.
Yeah, like we're usually wrapping up at 1 p.m. and we got in this news break and we had to write the story, report it. And thank God we did, because it was really important. Just to be fair, it's not the final version of the budget that's coming out at the end of this month. But it basically falls in line with the pass back budget that we wrote about a week ago. Mm-hmm. So pretty intense budget cuts at NIH, yet to be seen how they affect NCI. Claire covered the first full Senate Appropriations Committee hearing since the start of the presidential term, which is really a strong story. Definitely check it out. And we had Claire also covered the session at AACR that featured Monica Bertagnolli and Kim Rathmill about the NIH funding cuts being unprecedented and harmful to cancer research and scientific research in general. So yeah, Paul, over to you. We have a lot to cover today. A lot to talk about.
There's also, fact is that BSA is gone.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's our main, that's what we're going to dive into.
I actually want to wait with that. I really want to talk about something else, if you don't mind. We have heard from President Trump about all of this. We have heard from Elon Musk. We have heard from cancer center directors, from Republicans and Democrats in Congress. But what we have not heard was how is all of this affecting patients? What's at stake? So anytime we now can have a patient voice and actually tell a story about how dramatically benefited this person is, then we should put it on the cover. We should, blast the trumpets on this one. American people need to hear that.
Yeah. And we were really lucky to have a very happy story as our patient story this week, but I think it's something we need to continue, is really highlighting how it's affecting patients. The stories are not all this heartwarming. They are not all this positive. So definitely, I totally agree, Paul.
Yeah, and you look at something like the end of the dissolution or likely dissolution of tumor registries, cancer registries in the States. We won't know the damage being done, and that's it's how do you rebuild that? You will need to rebuild that, or BSA, right?
Yeah,
BSA,
let's talk about that.
Is probably the most. Actually, we'll back up some more.
Yeah. Let's go.
BSA, when you think about it, there's nothing more important in science than how you get advice and whom you get the advice from. And here's a group that's been running the giving advice to the cancer center, to NCI director on extramural programs.
For 30 years.
There are other groups. I think there's a lot more that is happening that we haven't really caught up with as they were flooding the zone.
Yeah.
And there's more to that. But, speaking of advice, the National Cancer Advisory Board, which is mandated by the National Cancer Act of 1971, had this one member, at least one member was bounced off that, and that happens to be Luis Diaz, and who is the guy who spearheaded the trial that cured the patient that we've just heard from.
Yep.
I have no idea why he was bounced off that board. Nobody really does. I went through the databases to see if he gave a ton of money to Democrats, and I'm not seeing that at all. Yeah. Not seeing him giving money to Democrats or, for that matter, Republicans. So whatever reasons they had for bouncing this person off, I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
And, think about it. How many people do you know who have actually cured the disease?
Like 4, 3.
I know a few.
You do.
Yeah. Well, no, you do too.
I know one, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, yes. So this would be exactly the one you're talking about. You're talking about Brian Drucker.
Yep.
Yeah. It would be like, you don't want to hear his advice?
I know.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah, what could the logic possibly be there? Yeah.
I hate to even start to speculate.
Yeah. Well, why don't we tell the BSA what your story about BSA actually was for people who haven't read the issue yet?
Yeah. Well, BSA is a 28-member board that no longer will meet. I don't understand why not. I don't know how much money they're saving from this.
Yeah.
If you just move it to Zoom, you might save $10. Oh, no, you won't even. It won't be even that much.
Yeah.
Well, no, they're special government employees. I have no idea. Or you can just have them waive the fees if you want to. I have no idea how the legality of that works. Yeah. But you're really not talking about, hundreds of dollars will be saved.
Yeah.
At each meeting. So it's totally, I'm not sure. And then advice is not going to be there.
Yeah.
We have not done compare and contrast of the boards. But I know that Liz Jaffe is no longer on the president's cancer panel. Also, another person whose advice you probably benefit from.
Yeah, to say the least.
Really. But there's, I haven't done a compare and contrast. We're going to try to do that this week.
Yeah.
And I also don't know who else was bounced off NCAB.
Yeah.
So if you're listening and you've been bounced off NCAB, please send me an email or a text or call me or send a carrier pigeon.
Any of the above.
All three. So all of the above. Because redundancy is good.
Don't tell that to Doge.
Yes, indeed. Much more efficient now. Not getting advice is always efficient. Not having data about incidence of cancer is always good. Mortality as well. It's all, we save a lot.
So I know that you're going to be sort of covering, well, we're also going to be covering sort of where's NCI now, talking about Liz Jaffe, the other stuff that's sort of in the pipeline. But just to go back to BSA for a sec, can you talk about, I know obviously they're not going to be like getting that advice, right? Because it's no longer there, of course. But didn't someone say that it's going to be absorbed into something else? What was it, Paul?
Oh, they can call ad hoc, convene ad hoc groups of advisors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is the implication there?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
But there was something in the statement from NIH which I also do not understand and will try to. No promises because it may not be understandable. There's something called the NCI committee convened.
Yeah,
I've never heard of NCI committee. It's certainly not in the National Cancer Act. It's not anything I've ever heard of before.
Is it the NCI Council? Is that what you're talking about?
NCI Council, yeah.
Yeah.
I have no idea. If anybody knows, please send carrier pigeons and faxes.
Yeah, it's a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Unsettling when Paul doesn't know something about NCI.
Well, it hasn't existed.
Yeah.
You know, I have no idea what any of this means. So, but we will find out, I promise. The other thing that happened that's not in the cancer letter this week, but will be in the cancer letter next week, is that the National Cancer Institute is now effectively left incommunicado. The entire communications arm of NCI is gone or it will be gone. Apparently, they received emails saying that it will be eliminated effective April 1st, which means it's already gone. I have no idea. Maybe they just misdated the emails. But I don't know how you make yourself gone a month ago.
That's efficiency.
It's an interesting point. So, but basically what that means is no more PDQ, no more patient information, nothing.
Yeah. Can you explain what PDQ is for our listeners, Paul?
Pardon?
Can you explain what PDQ is for our listeners?
Oh, physician data query, which is, this is discussion of what we know, what we don't know, what we believe in cancer.
Yeah. It's
doctors use it. A lot. That's a huge piece of what NCI does.
Yeah.
I don't know what money it saves.
Yeah.
Probably not very much.
Yeah.
And how much damage it does not to have it, probably a lot. But we won't know because we won't have any data. So that'll be good. It's really. Can we go back to BSA for one moment? This is getting really disorderly. Like
this is how we actually talk.
But when you think about how BSA came to be. BSA was formed out of the boards of scientific advisors of the 4 divisions of NCI, and they were put together by Rick Klausner 33 or 32 years ago.
Is it 28? I thought it was 28.
Oh, is it 28?
Was it 28? I thought it was. It's in the story, but I can.
It's in the story. Well, let's look at it.
It says 28-year history.
Yeah, 28 years. Okay, I'm really sorry. Yeah, so it was put together out of boards of scientific advisors of each of the 4 divisions 28 years ago, because each of the divisions were having these meetings of the extramural and intramural boards 3 times a year. So essentially, the NCI director had to go to these meetings pretty regularly. And what this was basically a very siloed system where you could not draw priorities. Like you have some really great leads in, let's say, cancer treatment and nothing much in prevention. So why not move money from one place to another and give advice? I mean, it was not a foolproof system, but it was getting better and better.
Yeah.
People found ways around peer review, which can be pesky. But
Do I want to know?
it's in the story. But yeah, one thing you could do in the old days was set up your pet project as a subcontract of the Frederick contract. And hundreds of millions of dollars over the years were spent that way, or misspent, depending on. They bypassed the peer review, but Harold Varmus closed that pretty much. It's not happening; hasn't been happening in a long time. And speaking of Frederick, we have no idea what's happening there.
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure it out and getting absolutely nowhere. I called the same guy at Leidos, and he says, "Oh yeah, of course I'll send you everything," and then he doesn't send me anything. So if you work at Frederick, please send the carrier pigeon, a fax.
You're going to be getting a lot of carrier pigeons.
Yeah, telegrams are good. Faxes are the best. Faxes. Or call me. I'm trying to figure out what in the name of what is going on.
Yeah.
So that's we're not really talking about the issue that just came out, but the issues that will be happening. So,
the stories we're thinking about for next week or this week.
Yeah, but NCI needs a director fast, because I don't know if anybody's fighting back or saying, "Hey, this is necessary."
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't think anybody really knows or cares. Maybe they do, but I'm
sure people care. I mean, the BSA story is our top story from last week. I think a lot of people are, aware of it, but what can they do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's going to be easier for directors or whoever to avoid peer review. That's going to be fun to cover. I mean, it's a great time to be a journalist. It's getting better and better every week.
Oh my gosh, yeah. There's more and more to cover. We can say that for sure.
Yeah, we're not. We're certainly not bored.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
But the most important thing was your story and your interview with that patient,
Kelly.
I just read it and cried. It's just so great to see that something wonderful is happening. And, and we're going to put that on page 1 every time we see something wonderful happening.
Yes, absolutely. We're all in agreement on that. Have to highlight that first.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Paul. Is there anything else you want to say before we sign off?
It's a great time to be a journalist.
Once again.
Yeah. You give me, you feed me a straight line, I'm going to respond.
That's what I'm going to get.
I'm like a dog,
Oh my gosh.
Say sit, I sit. Say anything else you want to say, I say it.
Good to know.
Sorry.
Right. Well, thank you, Paul. And see you next week, everyone.
All right. Thank you.